Welcome to the Generation Why Not podcast with Ruth Klein, a 6-time best-selling author, creative brand strategist, and book coach for small businesses, entrepreneurs, authors, mompreneurs, and professionals today. She is the president of the award-winning firm Expert Celebrity Branding, and the Wall Street Journal calls her the marketing maven. This podcast will be interviewing this generation, those who are doing things differently because of their perceptual shift of what success looks like, and who are driven by attitude, not age. They know anything is possible, and you'll hear how this generation feels the fear and keeps going anyway to achieve their goals and dreams, whether they be in business, sports, the arts, or lifestyle.
Hi, welcome to Generation Why Not. My name is Ruth Klein. I'm your host today. And Generation Why Not is a generation that is driven by attitude, not age. And this powerful and growing generation is fueled by inspiration, and it's spiked by creativity and driven with a mission. And I have to say, this is an era of innovation and inclusion, and this Generation Why Not is driving our economy to new heights of invention and problem solving of some of the biggest problems in business and social change worldwide. And that change starts with each of us individually as a whole. And I'm so excited to be sharing with you today a wonderful person who is a friend of mine, a colleague, highly respected in her profession and within the community. Michelle Perkins founded her company called Limit Free Life. I just love that. Limit Free Life. Doesn't that say everything that you need to know for people to discover their purpose and put some soul back into their work lives, and to coach entrepreneurs in developing both the mindset and the practical tools to achieve their big business visions. I just absolutely love that. Michelle works a lot with executives, and so that she calls herself an executive career transition coach. And this process that she uses when she is with her coaching clients ultimately transforms all aspects of their life, including health, wealth, and relationships. And you know, years ago, I heard this statement, and it's so true. How you show up in one part of your life is how you show up in all parts of your life. And so it makes perfect sense that when Michelle is helping clients with the relationship to money and their goals and their vision, that how they change in one aspect of their life certainly will include health, wealth, and relationships. And for 15 years, Michelle worked in several of the best corporate environments, and she was able to see firsthand how few people were truly engaged in their work. And Michelle was determined to find purpose as well as prosperity in work, and now partners with others as a trusted advisor, helping them to optimize their businesses, financial lives, and careers. Please help me welcome Michelle Perkins. Hello, Michelle.
Hi, Ruth. Thank you so much for having me on today. This is so much fun.
It's so great that we were able to coordinate this, because I really would love for my listeners and my audience to really hear some of the invaluable pieces that you are privy to and work with your clients, because you are definitely part of Generation Why Not, a new innovative group of or generation that certainly is driven by attitude. And so let me ask you, how did you start? I know that you worked in corporate environments and you saw that people were unhappy, but when did that start, and how did that come about? When did you make the decision, this is what I'm going to do?
I made that decision actually decades earlier than I actually did anything with it. So I knew the entire time as I was going through my career, I knew it wasn't quite it. You know, I was good at the jobs I was doing. I worked for wonderful companies, and there were a lot of benefits and interesting aspects to my job. So a lot of learning, a lot of great people, you know, certainly expanded my knowledge in a lot of ways, and had some some good experiences, but the whole time I was in this search mode, like inside of myself. So it looked really good on paper, but it never quite felt like this is it. This is how, where I want my life to go. It's hard to describe, and sometimes I envy the people who are not bothered by this. Not everybody is constantly trying to figure out what they really want to be doing and should be doing.
Yeah.
But I'm one of those people. So I knew there was a bigger purpose out there, and I knew that I wanted to work with people. When I started out, I myself had a lot of transition. I changed, my major and my jobs, and I was constantly evolving, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And so this was a long time in the making. And like it is for everybody, it's a leap of faith to get off the train and try to do something different. So it took me a while, but the idea was there. I was trying to figure out precisely what it should be. I was trying to be a little more analytical and figure out, okay, I'm not going to leave until I know exactly what I'm going to do, and that made it a little more difficult.
And did you ever find out exactly? Did you ever figure that out? Exactly.
Well, I feel ultimately with the coaching, I feel like I landed on it. But even within my coaching, it's constantly evolving. You know how that is.
Well, I love that because, here's what I love in coaching or in any profession, in any industry. It's always learning more and keeping up with that, right? It's not doing the same thing in the same way. And that's what's so beautiful about this generation. Why not? Always looking for innovative new ways. And also your whole introspection. And that is, this doesn't feel right. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know I don't want to stay here for the rest of my life. And that's a beautiful observation. And you actually acted on it. And few people actually act on it because of fear.
Yes, that's true. And I had a good example in my dad, who also had a very successful career doing one thing, and then there was a point in the middle of his life when I was a teenager where he started to just really get depressed, and it was almost getting to the point of not being able to do it anymore. It was getting that bad. And I wasn't super aware of that as a teenager, but
right
after the fact, I was made aware of it. And he did make a really big shift and a transition, and it was big. It was big for our family. A lot of change came from that. I didn't love all of it. Part of me was, kind of upset about it, but we could all see as a family that it was necessary for him. So maybe it's genetic. I'm not able to keep going with something that well that isn't feeling right. Anyway, I had that example in my life that it could be done, so that was probably helpful as well.
Yeah, and it sounds like it was helpful, and it ruffled a few feathers along the way, because change does that. Did that happen at all in your family unit?
Oh, my gosh, yes. And that was back in the day when, the men went to work like soldiers, and, it wasn't really a thing where you thought about whether you were happy. And he did that. He actually did that for almost all of his life. He did exactly what his parents told him to, and really kind of disregarded his own inner dreams. And at some point around 45, after doing that for an entire lifetime, he just, it was just time for him. He did have things he really wanted to do. He ended up going back to school, and he became a research scientist, which is what he had always wanted to do. But it was a big financial change. We moved. There was a lot of upheaval. And frankly, my mom's friends were all telling her she should just divorce him. It was horrible in their minds that he was going to upset the lifestyle they had and everything else. But she was very supportive and didn't listen.
Well, thank goodness. And that's what it takes. It takes an outlook that allows someone to really go for their goals and vision. It's very much what you're doing now, Michelle, and I would imagine that's part of where that heart piece is for you and helping your clients.
Yeah, it is interesting actually talking about that, because my mom was basically acting oddly as the coach in some ways, and that doesn't usually happen. Usually family and friends seem to be the ones who are not comfortable with the transition. So it's better to go outside and find somebody, like you or me to help with that.
Right, exactly. So walk us through what you do with a client. I find it so fascinating because so much of it is working with their relationship to money.
It's become very interesting. My goal is to help people to really create work they love. So that's the overriding mission. And for some people, some people love working in an organization. Some people really want to be entrepreneurs. I don't think there's a right or a wrong there. You have to go with what works for you, and there are benefits to both. And negatives to both. But I have found that any kind of change like that has, everything we do has a financial impact. Everything, on some level is about money. Mm-hmm. And so whether you want to change your job, whether you want to go out there and start a business or take your business to the next level, which are sort of the areas that I work with people in, they all have a money component. There are going to be money decisions you have to make. As you well know, money thoughts and beliefs that you're going to have to deal with. Depending on your relationship with money, how you think about things like debt and, investments and, spending money, investing in your business, things like that, they have a big impact on the direction you'll go. So I found that, sure, you can want to make the transition, you can want to start that business, but the foundational piece really is to get very connected with your relationship with money, see what those thoughts and beliefs are, and see how they can either help you or hinder your movement into these new things. You deal with those things, that foundational piece, and then you're really set up to take the next step.
So let me ask you, I know this might be hard, but if there were 3 buckets where you have found the majority of people with their relationship to money, what would those 3 buckets be?
Wow, good question, Ruth. Let's see. Well, I haven't put them into 3 buckets before, so let me see if I can do this here on the spot. I would say the immediate bucket that comes to mind is just the avoidance. There are the avoiders, people who really just are, for a million reasons, are not paying attention to their money. And so they're going forward in their business or and they don't know their numbers. They don't know what's going on. They're making decisions and getting great ideas, but, they're not connected to the money piece. And so that can create a lot of problems. And then I think, I don't know, just for 2 other buckets, I think there are the overspenders and the underspenders. So the ones, we'll start with the underspenders, are the ones who really, they want to have that money in the bank before they'll hire that next, employee, or they, so they're very, very cautious to the point of potentially keeping their business really stagnant. Then there are the ones who wildly spend, and their motto is, I'm investing in my business, so it's all good, and I'll have an ROI sometime down the road. And so they overspend, and they end up with some pretty serious cash flow problems because, it is true that you need to invest, in my opinion, but, sometimes you have to make some better decisions about how you're doing that.
I love that. So which bucket would you be in? Would you be in a different bucket?
You know what? I think I've been in each of those buckets at one point or another.
Right.
I think that's why I got interested in this, because I found myself in these different buckets, and I'm like, oh, here I am. This one's not good, and then I might, So, yeah, there's been a time in my life where I was definitely in each of those buckets. So.
And now,
I guess you're not a one-bucket person necessarily.
Yeah. And now that takes turns, right? So what bucket would you be in now today, knowing what you know?
Yeah, I think I would be in a kind of a hybrid, actually, because I think I still lean a little more toward making the investment, even if I'm taking that leap of faith. Like, I do, as you know, invest in coaching and a lot of things that people could say the return on investment for that is a little nebulous, maybe. I don't believe it is, but I could see people, I know plenty of people who don't invest in those things. I might spend money on help and support and people to help me with things versus trying to learn everything and do everything myself that maybe isn't totally within my budget. So I would lean, but I definitely have been working on my own relationship with money all this time. So I no longer avoid. even if I want to. If I start wanting to avoid, that's when I know I need to sit down and really just look at things. And I still will spend, but I don't consider it overspending. There are probably some areas where I underspend as well. There might be some great opportunity that I just don't necessarily make that decision. But I'm trying very hard to not be in one of those buckets and just find the good balance there.
Yeah, well, as you're speaking, Michelle, I'm thinking what's so great is that the more important thing versus the buckets maybe is just knowing that those pitfalls exist and being conscious of them. That's what I'm hearing. It's really being present to how you're spending money. If things are not moving in the direction you want, to look at maybe one of those areas. But it's hard, isn't it? Isn't it hard to look at our own relationship with money? Isn't it best to get someone with some outside experience that can help direct us in that area?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, unless you're really dedicated to figuring this out, and you're right, it is all about awareness and consciousness, and we aren't necessarily in any area of life completely aware of what we're doing or how we're thinking about something until you let somebody else take a look as well and hear your thoughts about it and talk about it with somebody who has no connection, whatsoever, no emotional attachment to what
right. That's exactly right, because money is so attached to that emotional piece, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and that was, I think, the most fascinating. I think that you've just landed on exactly why I got into this at all, because especially with my background, money was a very practical finances and accounting. It was supposed to be math, right? And it's really not. I mean, it is in some regard, but they never told us, in school or in my corporate careers in accounting and finance, that there was any emotion to it. And then you find, particularly it's there in the corporate world too. I used to do budgeting for film marketing at Disney, and the creative people, their take on what to do with those budgets and how to spend money was so different than the finance people, which is where the conflict came. So, I think of it so much as something that the entrepreneur is dealing with, but it's, these money beliefs are going on everywhere. So it's a big deal. And the emotional, it's just like, to me, it's just like food. We know what to eat to be healthy, but why don't we? I mean, it's the same with money. We can know what to do with our money and know that we should be doing X, Y, and Z, but why aren't we all doing it?
Well, it's interesting, and that just leads me to the next question, and that is usually something pivotal happens. You're right. We know what to eat, but we many times don't. I certainly am doing that this season. And we do know with the money. So it's that pivotal. So what was that pivotal moment where you realized, wow, it's time for me to be really conscious and look at my relationship to money?
Well, I definitely had a moment, and that was it was when my husband made a big career transition, and I'm rah-rah gung-ho about transitioning, so I was excited about that. But at the same time, I was managing all the money for the household and for his business and new businesses that he was starting, and it was all mixed up, the personal and the business at that.
Right.
And I allowed us to go into a really unfortunate financial situation, a lot of debt, using all of our savings, using all the money that had come from a previous sale of a business when he made the transition. It was really interesting to find yourself all of a sudden in a huge financial stress, not sleeping, worrying about doing crazy, magical things to manage everything. I mean, I started to get very arrogant about my ability to basically just find money and create ways to pay for things and to handle things. And so, and I just looked at that and thought, what the heck, I mean, if anybody, I should know. I know better, and so how did I get here? And then I came to all the realizations of what was going on behind the scenes to make that happen. So, but the minute that awareness came, it was a relief. It's like I knew that, okay, I haven't just lost it. There are emotional reasons, and there's some psychological stuff here going on that has resulted in this. And then, from that moment on, you can start paying attention and changing the game.
I really love that. It really hits us, right? We often think we need to learn most in so many ways, and then we become hopefully experts about it. We put in our 10,000 plus hours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I probably put 10,000 in just thinking about money and strategizing. And it's still kind of embarrassing actually to talk about now, but it was good. I mean, it opened up a whole world of understanding that I didn't have. That I think it's really unfortunate that it's not explained to people early on, because then they're all excited and they set out to create these businesses, and then they run up against all of these things and they don't really know what's going on. So Right.
And I have to say that listening to you right now, it makes me feel like, okay, I think other people as well, when you speak, here you should have known, you're an accountant, but the reality is you're still human and you're still, maneuvering life. And when I hear that it came, there was a aha moment for you, I'm thinking, okay, well, if that's the case, I can certainly make changes from there. So it somehow for me stabilizes the playing field. Here's a bright woman, and I get it. I completely get it. So I love that. So let me ask you, what is one thing that we can start doing right now? If you could only choose one strategy or one thing that our audience could start with, what would that be?
Well, I think I do recommend this a lot, but I think the most important thing just to start is to start having regular money dates with yourself. I think it's just important to spend, just to dedicate at least an hour a week where you are going to sit down and get to know your money. What is going on in your financial world in all aspects. And so I think once you get comfortable looking at it and getting to know it and understanding how you've organized it and, what your processes are and just what are you doing, and to tackle things. So that money date is about awareness and looking at what's happening, but also in that moment, okay, what can I do here that would make something in my financial world simpler? Am I not saving? Should I automate something and have $100 a month go directly into my savings so I don't see it? Should I put, should I tackle this one loan that, I really want to get rid of and not, there's just so many things. But with every money date, you can open yourself up to really that awareness that we've been talking about and getting very conscious and then taking just small steps. I mean, with money, small steps, it's the whole thing behind money. It's how compound interest works. I mean, it doesn't take much for things to really improve dramatically from small moves.
I love that. So, Michelle, how can our listeners get a hold of you?
Thanks for asking. They can get a hold of me through email, Michelle with 2 L's at limitfreelife.com. They can go check out limitfreelife.com. I have a giveaway there that they can download and get on my newsletter list, and I can keep in touch with them regularly about what's going on. I have a podcast called Limit Free Life, several platforms where podcasts can be found. So, those are good ways to get a hold of me. I love to talk to people. I love to hear people's stories. So I would love it if you would email and we'll find a time to talk.
Michelle, thank you so much. This has been just such an eye-opener, and I'm sure many of our audience listeners will really find something to latch onto as a aha. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing Generation Why Not to people's attention, because a lot of what I've been saying is very much about attitude and the fact that, why not? Why not change the way you're doing things at any point? So thank you.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks so much. here we have an incredible executive career transition coach, Michelle Perkins. And I really, really love so much of what Michelle imparted. I love what she said in terms of she helps people find the life they want to lead, the career they want to lead, helps them with their vision and their goals. And the foundational piece, she believes, is money. And it's so true. You can identify a life that you want and a career that you want, but if money is a problem and it's not coming in, or it's going out faster than it's coming in, there's going to be some sleepless nights, and it's not going to bring peace in any way. Also, I really loved the distinction that Michelle made between debt and investment. And I think that's a really, man, I could chat about that for such a long time, and I'm sure Michelle could as well, that we all know what a cost is that gets us into debt and what an investment is that can leverage our existing money. That's such an important piece for people that want to live the life and have the career that they want. I know with my parents, had they not invested in real estate, their primary business would not have allowed them to live the life that they did for probably the last 15, 20 years, because their business, because of all the changes in technology, was really not there anymore. So had they not taken that profit and that cash flow and invested it. So there's something huge there as well. This one idea that Michelle shared is so much, but she was kind enough to share this one huge piece, and that is finances and your relationship to money. It's really not just math. There's also that emotional piece, that attitude piece, and this idea of having a regular date to get to know your money. I love how she said that, because you have dates to reacquaint yourself with your significant other, and you have regular dates, but it's just, get to know your money. What's going on there? And the awareness is huge. And then from there, taking action and small steps. And again, it's so perfectly said, as only Michelle Perkins could say, and that is with money, taking small steps. It does make a difference, because compound interest is based on small steps as well. So thank you to all of you. Enjoyed our call today. Hopefully you did as well. And I look forward to seeing you on our next Generation podcast. I'm Ruth Klein, your host.
Thank you for joining Generation Why Not. We look forward to receiving any questions you may have, as Ruth will be answering them on this podcast. Follow Ruth.Klein on Instagram or email rklein@ruthklein.com. Until next time, a short reminder that success is driven by attitude, not age.